Definitely wanted teaching juniors to be a part of these 2 days, and we've got 2 very qualified junior instructors, meaning that they instruct juniors, not that they're junior. Then one of them's a senior. John Junior. Paul Bucy is the director of instruction here at the Desert Willow Golf Academy. He's a 3-time chapter junior golf leader award winner. He's Greg Norman certified, he's TPI certified, and he's got a great junior program here in the desert. John Mason is the director of instruction at Encinitas Ranch. He's a former section teacher of the year, chapter teacher of the year. He's a member of the board. He works with me on the teaching committee, and again, a highly qualified person to talk about teaching juniors. So with that, I would turn it over to the John and Paul show.
Thank you, Bill. Everyone hear me okay? Okay, welcome to this year's summit, and since this is the art and science of teaching junior golfers, I thought the first thing we should do is define art and science, so we know what we're talking about. I have definition of art as the quality or expression according to aesthetic principles of what is beautiful, appealing, or of more than ordinary significance. That's the art, which explains the statement, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or in our case, the eye of the instructor. That's the art that we bring to the equation. The science is defined as the systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation and experimentation. Or in our case, what really happens versus what we feel happens. With the advent of new technology, we are now able to see slower motion, what really happens. The question is, what do we do with this information?
My version for art and science and our role in teaching juniors is really what's the art in coaching a junior and developing them so that their own self-discovery, which is what we kind of touched on this morning, is being fostered, but yet we're giving them good fundamentals and things that they can fall back to and grow with. Give you an example, I just thought of this chair. If we had some juniors who wanted to learn how to do a flip off this chair, they could do it uncoached. We'd probably have a couple broken bones and some tears, and people would get hurt, but eventually a couple of the juniors would come out and they'd be able to do it completely uncoached. And you can just look at skateboarders for that example. They're a classic example of uncoaching, kind of reckless things going on, and they're very talented. So our role, I believe, is the art of finding, okay, let's not have too many broken bones, and have some good positive coaching so that they can achieve their goals a lot faster, but yet really teach themselves how to do it, because I believe it's that process is where it really gets strong, and they get good, and they can expect to hold up under pressure, and they can really rely on themselves. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Great. And one of the beauties and one of the problems at the same time with juniors is they are very moldable, as they have very few injuries and limitations, as we know. I remember hearing once that if you can play golf, you play. If you can't play, you teach. And if you can't teach, you teach children or kids. And I just want to bring that out right front, that I think it's backwards. I think teaching kids is actually the most important. It's interesting that we delegate teaching juniors to our least educated or least experienced instructors. I think it's backwards. We really need to start working with the kids at a very young age, I believe, and getting good at the fundamentals. What else? Okay, so we are moving right into using video. Does everybody have the sheet? I'm going to just go with the sheet. The first section that Paul and I are talking about is the art and science of using video with junior golfers. The pluses and minuses, basically. I have a handout as well that states how I work with juniors and video. Hold on a second, sorry. In here somewhere. Probably left it somewhere. anyway, I normally use video with juniors as a checkpoint. I'm not necessarily, and I also, one of the first things that I do when a junior comes to me is I try to assess whether they are a beginner, an intermediate, or advanced player, and I think that's important that we do. Hopefully we all do that. In your form that you fill out when they first show up, you ask them what's their ability level, what are their goals. So for me, when I'm using video, if I'm with a beginning golfer, I show them video themselves and compare them to a better swing, not necessarily a tour professional. I think that's important that as a beginner golfer, they are working on basically balance, rhythm, tempo, the basic parts of a golf swing, or short game, chipping, pitching, putting. But I don't stop at positions. I don't use swing plane lines. I just use rhythm, tempo, and balance when I'm working with beginning students. I try not to show them very many pictures from different angles at the same time. I think that tends to confuse them. This is for the beginning golfer. How about yourself, Paul?
Yeah, I use it a lot of different ways. It can be used as a diagnosis tool for swing faults. It's just said it's one way. It can be another way. It's just to engage your students. Kids love video, so they just like to look at the video. My son's 5.5. He likes to just draw on that JC video and make a bunch of lines, and it would be cool for him to see a swing, and that might be it. It might be just enough to get him engaged and want to come back for his next lesson. And then also, as we get more advanced, I use it to diagnose swing faults as a checklist to kind of see where we're at. I use it for to motivate. This is where we were, this is where we are now, this is the ball flight we're getting, and that's really motivating for some people when they see that, when they see they can actually do it. So there's a lot of different ways to use it, but if you're going to use it as a diagnosis, to diagnose somebody, and what's happening now too is, they all have phones now too, and so they're going to start diagnosing themselves, is you want to educate them on, we talked a little bit about it today, how to shoot your swing, what exactly you're looking for. And then I'll invite some of my students up today, and I will pretend that we have video here and kind of how I use that when I'm using video. But it's just one tool. When we get into my first of all, I just want to say it's an honor to be here today. Coaching, just like John, I really have a passion for coaching juniors, and really I love the aspect of coaching them. We're doing a lot more than just fixing swing mechanics. And I have a handout that's on the back of the junior presentation that I'm going to refer to, and it's really the areas of development over the years that I've sort of put together and grabbed from here and there at events like this, and people I've met and what I've read and respected instructors, because now I'm coaching 14 juniors that are playing college golf or high school golf or aspiring high school golfers, and I need a blueprint to get each and every one of them to their goal. And each of them have different goals. Some of them are at different stages of their development, but it's a nice way for me to really say, hey, where are we at and where are we going and how are we going to get there? And it prevents me from hanging out in too much of the swing mechanics and fundamentals. So I'm going to get into that too when I come in here. It allows me to just not overcoach and not undercoach in certain areas. So.
Great, and while we're on the subject of beginning golfers, we haven't moved on to the intermediates or advanced yet. Hopefully, a lot of us, I'm sure, are teaching beginners, I hope. Beginners are the largest section of the golfers. The advanced golfers are, I don't know, what are they, 2%, 3% of all golfers? I mean, the beginners are our major people we are trying to get into the game. We're growing the game. Let's get the beginners playing. So beginners, as Paul said, love to see video. They love to watch video, but it can't be too technical. This is an iPad free. I got this about, I don't know, a month ago. Learned how to use it. This thing is awesome. I don't know. And this little packet thing I put on my shoulder, I can carry it on the golf course. This is good stuff. It's very portable. I also have the video set up like I think everybody does, that the stationary video where, you know, you bring the student in and then you go hit balls and you do that. But I really like the portability of the iPad 3. And what I'll do is I will just take the iPad 3, and I'm not concerned. These are beginning golfers now, beginning golfers, juniors. I'll just show them usually face on or down the line, or like Billy mentioned earlier, I might do different angles and just show them their swing, and I can email it to them immediately that day. Right here, right on this. It's unbelievable. And they love seeing it, and it makes them really interested in learning more about golf and playing golf. And it's amazing how the two go together. I don't put any lines on there. If I want to do voiceover, I can. There's a little app I can do that, but it's really simple. And I highly recommend you looking into the portability of something like this as far as beginning golfers.
Yeah. Yeah, John.
John, do you use the camera on the iPad, or do you have a different camera?
No, there's camera on here. Have you used it? The V1's, it's amazing. It's actually very good. I'm not sure what the shutter speed is. I'm going to say 1,000, but I'm not exactly sure. Pretty good. What is it? 30? 30. Oh, okay. Well, it's very clear. It's unbelievable with the V1 app.
Yeah, I use a Casio high-speed. I film at like 240 frames per second, and that pretty much can get impact every time. You know, there's one that they don't make anymore that shoots at 300, which is really nice, but it's plenty for what I'm using it for. I don't have a phone yet. I have an iPhone coming. The iPhone 5 has a pretty cool camera in it. I was surprised at how good the shutter speed was and how the shaft didn't get as distorted as I'd seen in the past. And I like that because I like the flexibility to be able to go out on the golf course and film out there and have it right there. You know, for beginning students, really, I'm trying to light that fire. I'm trying to get them excited about the game of golf. Because if you can do that, things get easier. You know, if they're not excited about what they're doing, it's like anything else in life, whether they're playing guitar or they're playing golf or whatever it is. It's much harder. So I want to get them fired up. So if using video does that, great. If we take them out on the golf course and show them a fire clip and show them a really cool hole and a bunker, and we'll go for a ride at first and just get them, you know, to see what the golf course looks like. I'm going to do that too. And then obviously I want to teach them how to strike a ball so they can get it up in the air. Because I think that's one of the things that early on that can be frustrating for kids is if they don't know how to do that. So we have a couple drills that we do with our little ones to really get them to learn how to hit down on the ball and get it in the air. Because I think that's, you know, important.
Another very important or good tool that the video does, especially when you send it home via email, is my video. I usually have kids in groups. Very seldom do I have kids that take individual lessons. Beginners especially, they're mostly always in groups. And that's because they're having fun, quote unquote, having fun. Okay? Well, you want a video. You really can video 4 or 5 kids having fun. You send that home to the parents and you send it home to them. It's amazing the excitement it generates in the kids. They really want to come out. They can't wait to come out next week. 2 days a week. They want to come out every day. Really creating excitement with the kids, especially beginning golf. And that is what we're trying to do, right? We haven't gotten into the intermediate or advanced yet. We'll get into that in a second. Anything that we can do to create interest for kids. And another thing, when you're speaking of juniors, is there's a lot of different sizes. I mean, there's 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. There's a lot of different age groups, and they can be beginners at any age. For me, when I'm working with beginning students, I've got a lot of training aids that I'm going to get to here in a minute, but since we're talking about beginning golfers, this iPad V3 or V1 is excellent. Anything more about beginning golf?
Other than we're primarily teaching beginners here for the most part is in a group setting. We have a Fairway Kids program, and I think of beginners from the age of say 6 to 12. We get them into our program. We use a lot of games. We try to have fun. We're encouraging some basic fundamentals and just sort of steering them along the way and making sure that they're having fun. And then from there, we get into more advanced or some private one-on-one coaching. That's what we've been doing here. So.
I did want to bring one thing up. If anybody has a question, just go ahead and ask it at any time. Just to stay on topic, I want to go back. If you have a question, Alan?
Yeah. What do you start with? You start on the range, you start putting
Me personally, what I do is I have full swing, and I have a pitching area with bunkers, and I have a putting green. I'm lucky enough to have 3 different areas. A lot of golf courses don't have that, unfortunately, but I have 3 areas. I will always start with full swing. I know some people start with putting, but I always start with full swing. And it's interesting that you bring that up. I'm going to show you, everyone here, a very interesting way to start children. Maybe Paul can talk while I'm setting this up.
You know, we're similar to John's approach. We utilize the academy here. We'll set up a putting course here with something as simple as a 3-foot putt, where we'll go over some fundamentals, where to stand, where your feet go, where the ball goes in relation to your feet, your alignment, and how to aim the putter face. And we have different holes set up, and then we do pitching and chipping, and then we work our way into full swing. So we just keep them rotating. You know, when I started, it was a pile of balls and a lot of hitting and a lot of tees, and that's the way I learned, frankly. But it's evolved from there, and I think especially when you're dealing with younger kids, 6, 7, or 8 years old, they need a lot of things to keep them entertained. They get bored very easily, especially now in an age with iPads and all these activities and video games and all these other outlets and TV, and that they're very highly stimulated, and they need to be moving. So we just keep them going, and we also have a little physical activity where we'll get them warmed up, throw a ball around, do some overhead tosses, do some throws. You know, some of the kids that come to us aren't, you know, athletic. They don't play other sports. So that's one of the things that I look for as an instructor is how athletic are you? If you're really athletic, golf can be somewhat easy. But if you're not, golf can be much more difficult. So I want to know home working with, and then see what skills we got to develop from that.
Okay, here's an example of art and science of teaching. Technology. Make sure your technology works before you bring it. This is an iPad, and this is a little speaker. It's a great thing. It really works. It doesn't work right now. It has music on it. I have a friend of mine who was a musician, and he made some music specifically designed for. Does anyone know about Tour Tempo, the book Tour Tempo? I read it many years ago and decided that having music at the mid-tempo range would be a good way to start beginners, and that's kind of where I am. Mid-tempo. If you read the book, if you don't, it's about 1.06. I don't know if that's too technical. But I will have the music out, and I'll have 4 or 5 kids, depending on what, it doesn't matter what size they are, and I'm a big grip trainer proponent. I have them tee up the ball, and I might lay a stick down, I might not. Usually I do lay a stick down. This is how I start beginners. That was the question. I show them how to grip the club. With the grip trainer, it usually takes about a minute, maybe 45 seconds, something like that. Get them to grip the club. Then I have them kind of go like that with their hands. Then I have them kind of make just a basic swing, however they do the best. And then I have them just go ahead and set up to the ball and hit shots. Now, when the music's playing, the music has a certain beat. It's kind of a fun music. It's kind of a Hawaiian sound. And so I'll kind of do it with them. I'll kind of get them going to the music, right? And then I have them step up to the ball, and I take video of all 5 or 6 of them hitting balls at the same time. It's absolutely amazing. The ball gets airborne, and they learn what the club is doing almost immediately. That's one of the tricks I use.
I like the reminder grip too. When I have some smaller students or students that don't have the strength, I'm okay with the baseball grip as well too. It doesn't have to be perfect yet. Really is what allows them to control the flow. And support, I love the US Kids Clubs too, they're lightweight. I use an orange whip too with a reminder grip on it too for adults and older students as well.
Talking about grips, baseball grip, I use almost dominant. I start all of my kids with a baseball grip. I'm not sure how many people do that, but I start all my beginning golfers with a baseball grip. It's so easy to learn. Then from there, I'll give them a preference of whether they want to do one or the other.
I'm level 2 golf pro, so I haven't been through the junior track, but I have studied some of that, and I like a lot of that. And I like what I've learned from TPI, and I use that as part of my physical development for my own personal knowledge in screening, doing some simple screens. But then for my students that are in high school and have a goal of playing college golf, and now they're utilizing the physical component, I use that. It's a great system. But as far as the TPI aspect, and we use that on the deck here when we warm up. Something as simple as throwing a ball, you know, and transferring your weight and get back on your right side and pivot off to your right and get over to your left side, and just doing that is a good motion for golf. And a lot of kids can't do that really effectively. And so we'll do that. Another good motion is like a frisbee, like this too. And that motion for golf is really, really good. Just developing their motor skills is excellent. So that's why I'm a big believer in playing a lot of different sports at that age. I think we offer an 8-week program 5 times a year for our fairway kids. That's our beginning program. And they're welcome to come in and out. And I encourage them to do that. That's me personally. I want them playing all sports because I know if they love golf and they come back and hopefully we've made it enjoyable for them, that it will be a lot easier for us to coach them. And so that's, you know, I'm sorry I couldn't get more into it, but.
I just was wondering, I thought it said you were junior certified. I know when I went through the certification, they talked about kind of like you're saying, how you go down to PGA into one of their junior programs, all the different things they encompass outside of golf to create fun environments and create athleticism, to then relate that back to golf. So I was just kind of wondering how that works.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to learn a lot more about that, and I think there's definitely a balance between the two. Absolutely. So.
I do most of my stuff at my facility. TPI, I found that it's a little more for advanced players, since we're talking about beginners at this point. I don't send my beginners to TPI. Okay. Sorry about the wind. Those that haven't seen, this is an 8-board. This is something that I use with the kids. They love this stuff. This is a balance. They hit balls on it, get their feet moving, spin around, work on their balance. Kids eat this stuff. They love working on this. I'll have 4 or 5 of these laying around, and the kids are working on it all the time. This really improves balance. Okay, that's beginners. Any more questions on beginning juniors? Yes? Yeah. At Encinitas Ranch, we have hundreds of kids that come through there, range anywhere from 3 to a lot of young kids. And what I have found, convincing parents to get on board with the have fun thing, is if their grip is okay, grip trainer, if their basic swing is okay, if their balance is okay, and if things look okay, things are okay. If they're off balance, falling over, they can't get the ball in the air, they can't do anything. That's another reason why I use tees. I use a lot of tees. Kids, hopefully you do too. At least the ball gets in the air, right? But if the parents come and they see that they're having fun and they look good, they probably won't come back. They know that they're in good hands. Absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Do you have levels?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if they can advance, and if you test them and they've tested out of the have fun beginning level, they can move into the more advanced level, which we're going to get into. Do you do that?
Yeah, but I mean, their grandparents, it doesn't matter. Their grandparents that are like 5-year-olds, they want to work on, straight left rock.
Can a 5-year-old go into an advanced class?
Yeah,
No? At your place they can't?
they could if they had, whatever they have for their ability. But I mean, we're not talking about that. We're talking about that if it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the attention span to last 10 minutes for your game concentration. So I just didn't know if you guys had something that you kind of said that they play off.
I mean, it just comes with educating what you're doing, why you're doing it. That's right. All right. So before we leave the beginners, I want to talk about this because I hear John say he has his juniors hit off tees a lot, and I did that a lot when I started out because A, they got success right away. B, the parents would see they've had success, so they'd come and say, oh, there's little Johnny getting it up in the air, and he was know how to play golf before today. And there's all merit to that, but at the same time, if you only have them hit off tees, they will have a very difficult time when you take that tee away from them. A lot of them will hang back and hit behind it. So I like to mix the two together and make sure that they're learning the concept of striking down and where the swing bottoms out. So this is an awesome activity right here. You just take a 2x4 and you have to teach them to chip over a board, and they can start to understand how the ball the club moves down through the ball and strikes the turf. So they're not hanging back and sculling your chips onto the green. And this is something for just a basic beginning on how to play golf and get the ball in the air. And I think it's important because if you hang on those tees too long, most of this game is played without a tee. So
that's a good point. My question would be full swing. Do you have them hit ball with a full swing, or are they chipping it over the board?
Oh no, they're doing chipping and pitching.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So chipping and pitching, I'm good with that. But going into the full swing, and they're struggling and not having any fun.
Yeah, and that's why at Fairway Kids for us, we spend a lot of time with the chipping and developing that pitching. That's our getting that pitch shot and getting to get the ball up in the air off the grass, and then we slowly work with the full swing.
Yes.
Does the ball ever bounce back? It bounces back. It doesn't really hit that now. I haven't had that yet, but it can. Once again, we start off with a little chip putt off the green, and then we'll get into a little bit more of a pitch. You could use like a half-rounded foam roller too. That's effective. But I like the visual, and I like to teach them the cause and effect of that. The board has a good effect.
And since we are on the video subject, the science part, or the art, actually we're blending art and science in this, hopefully, as instructors. You can video that as well. I video putting, I video chipping, I video pitching, I video bunker shots. Okay? With beginner students. A lot of instructors may not teach beginners bunker shots. I go ahead and throw them in there and show them how to whack it out of them. So that's just my deal. Okay, now we're going to move to intermediate golfers, intermediate juniors. You want that one? Let's see here. So everybody that has the handout there. For me, intermediate, when I'm working with intermediate juniors, basically a game plan is necessary for them. What are their goals? Why are they taking lessons? Are they willing to change something? Usually an intermediate junior has had lessons before. Maybe it's just a parent. Maybe it's another teacher. So they have some preconceived notion that you may have to change or may not change. You need to figure that out. And then at this point, I put on here, it's pretty important that you video the same position every time. With beginners, I'm not sure that it's important. You can video just about anywhere. They're just having fun, getting a swinging motion. With the intermediates, and we're working our way into advanced golfer juniors, it's important that you video the same way every time. Would you agree, Paul?
I would. I like, I primarily film down the line from here on the hand line. Just my preference, you know, that's where I prefer to shoot, on the hand line right here. And then on the hand line, you know, or bump up over right here, stream on. And I just think it promotes consistency of what you're looking at. But it's amazing. I mean, if you get that angle wrong a little bit, you could all of a sudden view your swing plan very differently. So I think that's really, really important, especially to educate them, because they're all using their phones now. Whether they're telling me they're not, they all have cool little apps on them, and they're showing me stuff on their phone now.
YouTube,
yeah.
Absolutely. They're looking at it all. And they want to be the next Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy. Here's something that I made. I'm kind of a tinkerer. I make things. I got this, and I was having trouble doing this. And when you get one of these, you'll see you have a little bit of trouble with it. So I thought, you know, if I just had one hand that I could hold it with. So I took some PVC. I don't know if you all can see that. And I just drilled it out. This slides right in here. Bing, bang, boom. I put a little on there. And I've got this, and the way I do it, I know Billy does it at hip height, I do it at chest height. So this keeps it really stationary for me. And when I'm doing my videos, it's very quiet, very calm, and very simple. Okay, that's with this one. Obviously, the stationary video, you've got the tripod, you've got the whole thing set up front and back. Hopefully, you have the stationary as well.
I use a camera out on the range. Sometimes I'll just, we'll use the back of the camera. They all have screens on them. Or we'll take a walk into the academy. I kind of like that because it gives you a little time to kind of break up what you're working on. Sometimes you need time to just sort of take a break, and that walk back to the academy and back helps a lot. Like we're going to drink water. I think the brain needs that sometimes when you're working on stuff, and it gives you an opportunity to talk about other things. Going to my coaching philosophy is, other parts of their game, their short game, their shot making skills, or talk a little bit about their equipment. How's your new driver, or what are you playing with? And it just gives me another opportunity to learn more about their game. So I go back and forth, but I do like that. I like the flexibility of having something right there too, and a little bigger screen.
The flexibility is amazing. I can take this on the golf course with my little packet that goes in and out. When we go to the cart, I take it out of here. Stick this in the golf bag, and I'm showing them while we're riding. We're sitting in the cart, showing them what they're doing on the golf course. I think it's invaluable for intermediate that are wanting to become advanced. They want to see what they're doing so that they can get a feel for what they're doing.
Scott, at this time right now, I'm going to invite Michael Jones up here.
Okay.
Michael, he's a sophomore at Palm Desert. Plays on the high school golf team. He's been in and out of our junior golf program for quite some time, and he and I just started working together again. And he's made some awesome improvements in his swing. But he's grown 3 inches this year. Have you done growing? Yeah. 2 more inches left now. So one of the things that when we got back together before the range closed about a month ago, is they said we need to get those clubs a little longer. He was playing with standard length clubs, so we added a 1/2 inch. And we may go a little bit longer. I don't know, but his posture was getting really bent over. His swing was getting his figure was getting kind of flat. So I'd like to see him get a little taller and get a little more upright. And I think it would be easier for him having a little bit longer club. So the first thing we did after he lengthened his clubs is I checked his lie angle. So I used some impact tape and I looked at his divots and verified that it was soling properly. And it was. And then what we worked on the other day was having him with the feeling that he's staying taller in his swing. So if you want to hit a couple shots.
This is where you would have the video camera set up.
Yes. So I'll talk kind of like if we're viewing through the video. So what he did was he lengthened a few of his plugs to see how he would like it. That was Venus, and he's very comfortable with that, so he's going to have them all done. So what club do you have there? Okay. So how tall are you, Mike?
6'3.5".
So in terms of video, if you were going to use, someone and you'll see how he swings, like Matt Kuchar is someone who comes to mind because Michael takes the club away, and at the top of his swing, he puts the shaft back on the shaft plane almost. So that's someone who's using somewhat of the same style of swing. I'm not saying we would use him and run back to Matt Kuchar and make sure everything's perfect, but that's I tend to kind of do that when I'm looking at the swing. I try to find light throws. Yeah, go ahead and hit that. So there's a couple lines that I use all the time with all my students, and that's one. I put one on the back right here. I'll put another one on their head. I'll put a shaft plane line in, and then I may put a rectangle around their hips all the way to their feet, and make a rectangle this way. And it gives me a good idea to look at the swing, and not in terms of swing plane or style, but just some commonalities that I see with all different types of ball strikers. And so it's just the way I look at the swing. And I think one of the big things that separates good ball strikers is the way their hips move compared to amateurs. And so I like this line right here. A lot of people, if we call thrust or early extension or come out of posture, move closer to the ball. And then a lot of different things can happen. So that's one of the things that I want to see that's happening. Fortunately, in juniors, unlike maybe some older adults, their hips are pretty flexible and they move pretty well. So as long as I educate them on how to do it, there's usually not too many roadblocks. The trouble is when you get someone in their 60s who have very tight hips who have been sitting at a desk for 40 years. That's when the real challenge comes in, and that's what Glenn was talking about. Now you really have to kind of work with what you have and kind of build a swing around that. So the goal for Michael right now, as you can see he's bent over quite a bit, is I'm going to try to get him a little taller. Sit your setup. And some of the references I use is this line right here. I like to see it out over the toes or somewhere in here. I mean, nothing has to be perfect either, by the way. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but that's just a guideline of the toe line. And then when I have another student come over, I'll talk about the takeaway. But he's done such a fantastic job with his swing. He was coming over the top before, and he was hitting a big slice, and he's made a really nice change with his golf swing on how he's delivering the club to the golf ball. That when we were working on this driver, it's now time to start working on tempo and timing for him and getting comfortable with those changes. Because if it's always about changing the swing, it's going to be hard for him to really get comfortable in what he's doing. Plus the fact that he's growing, and maybe he's still growing. So that's what we worked on. I have an opportunity. He plays in our junior elite program on Saturday. So from 2 to 5, we'll do some shot making skills, and then we go out on the golf course and have an opportunity to play too. So he has some really great holes, and then he has some erratic holes. So to me, he just needs to commit to his new swing and get his timing down and start focusing on some of the other boxes that I have on my sheet and get away from maybe the mechanics of his golf swing. And we were working on a bunker shot the other day too. So.
Paul, I think since we are on video, I wanted to try and stay focused a little bit on the video, but my question always is when does over video rob them of feel? When is the point where it's too much video? I think that's where we're always working as professionals to try to keep the art part in there, the art of using the video, when to use it and how much to use it. My question, what's your young man's name? Michael. My question to Michael would be, tell me what you're thinking when you hit the shot. Just think out loud and hit a shot for me.
What I try to think about, keep my chest up because my other club is short. I used to always be down. I used to always chunk it. But now, I try to think about keeping my chest up. So that way I don't chunk it too bad.
So I guess my question always is I always ask them, especially intermediate or advanced players, what they're thinking when they're hitting shots, and it's amazing what comes out of their mouth. And if you listen to them, you'll find out a lot about why they're having problems. And when I use too much video, I get some stuff that they're telling me. I'm going, whoa, time out, wait a minute. I'm using way too much video. They're overthinking it. I'm not sure that chest up is the best spot to hit a shot. Maybe it is. I'm not saying that, but you see my point. I think the art part is for us as instructors to try to blend the two together. How much video do we use, and how do we get it to the student, and how are they still able to play at a high level? Any questions on that?
One other thing with Michael before he goes. To change his swing plane, which is really, really improved picture setup, to get a little bit wider. I think with tall students too, a wide base is good. So that's one of my goals too, is make sure he's getting a little bit wider. Because when you're taller, it just seems like your head can get moving pretty fast one way or another. And I focus on the head a lot. So one of the things we did was start your backswing. There's a lot of the time where students start coming over the top and the left shoulder and chin are going this way. And I'll focus on the head and make sure that the head's staying back. And the space between the chin and the shoulder starts to get larger on the downswing. And I like the head staying back. And it was that we worked on that helped really shallow out the club and give them a better delivery. And it happened really pretty fast. So that was that's something I look for at video shooting this way, is the head getting out in front of the golf ball. You can that head weighs a lot, doesn't feel like it, but if it gets moving one way, it kind of tends to bring everything with it. So.
Great. I'm going to change this up just a little bit. Originally on the sheet, you saw that we went into going on the golf course. I'm going to do that last. I want to go into practice because it blends better into what we're doing here. How we get our students to practice. Are you going to bring another young man up? Okay. I've had a lot of success with young tournament people. I don't know how else to explain it. Young juniors playing tournament golf. Not all juniors want to play golf. In fact, most of them don't, as a matter of fact. Very few of them are as interested and dedicated to actually play tournament golf. The ones that are interested in becoming better and are interested in playing tournament golf, I have them do most of their work at home. I don't know how many of you have your students doing things at home, but this is where 90% of the work is done at home. I read the book by Pia Nielsen, Every Shot Counts, or Pia Nielsen and Marriott, Every Shot Has a Purpose, and she talked about the play box and the think box. Well, I took that to another stage, and I put the think box off the golf course, literally off the golf course, at home or in a gym or somewhere. So if they're working on their swing, they're working on it away from the golf course. When they come to the golf course, I really want my juniors to be focusing on the flight of their ball, ball contact, target, and going on the golf course and playing. So that's just something that I do. I'm not sure how you work mostly with your kids. Most of your practice is done on the court, at the practice facility.
No, I would
how much
say,
do you do at home?
I like them to do things at home. Regards to like making a swing change, you can get a foam noodle or create an obstacle. I'm big on obstacles because it gives them immediate feedback. The challenge for all of us teaching adults, children, whoever we're teaching is that your lesson can be fantastic, but what's going to take place when they won't read your tee is really where the magic happens. And so I'm fortunate because here I get to supervise a lot of practice. So I like that. But unsupervised practice, who knows what's going to go on. So that's why you need good drills and a good system so that they're repeating or doing the things that you want, that's going to, you know, foster the change that you're trying to do. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. But things at home are important because the reality of it is that, you know, whether you're a good basketball player or a football player or golfer, I mean, you know, good basketball players have a hoop in their backyard. So after dinner or before dinner, they're shooting hoops. And golf, there's a golf course, and there's a driving range. And sometimes that's not accessible. So, yeah, you can set up little chipping games in the backyard.
Some instances that I have in the packet that I handed out on the back page shows the shoulder turn, hip turn, pivot. You all see that? I did that on Word on a computer. I just took pictures and then put text box and put the text right next to the pictures. Simplest thing in the world. I've got like 100 of these drills. So what I'll do is I'll give the student things to do at home. That's the one instance. And they'll be working on this stuff at home. Shoulder turn, hip turn, just a basic pivot. And if they're doing it at home every day, which is where they're there most of the time, they're building, I believe, good muscle memory. Another good one that I use is the head against the wall drill. I don't know how many people use that, but I'll take a yoga block and put a yoga block against the wall or a pillow or a folded up towel, have them put their head against the wall and have them take a little short club that I made for them or put their hands together and just make swings. And it's just that repetition of doing that at home. It's amazing how moldable kids are and how quickly they can get a swing that is actually very good. So when they come to the golf course, they don't have to focus on those things, and they can focus on ball contact and ball flight.
Paul, can I ask you something specific? When you talked about how, you know, hips getting out of the box, basically. Okay, you have some specific drills that you do with them to quiet down all that spinning, all that Elvis move, which is, you know,
well,
I mean, it happens to everybody.
The best screen you can do is an overhead glute squat, and someone did it. Glenn did it.
Yeah, he's pretty
that
impressive.
I'll tell you right away. I mean, that's probably one of the greatest screens there is, because it's going to tell you if you know, maybe there's a trouble with their hip hinge, hamstrings, knees, their calves, their ankle flexion in their ankles. So, and you'd be surprised. You think all kids can do that? They can't. You know, just because they're a kid or a junior doesn't mean they're very flexible. So that's number one. Core strength a lot of times too. And but as far as drills, I like impact. I like practicing impact and getting them to do this and rotate their hips and just see what it feels like to do this, as opposed to come out and go to their toes. I like to work on footwork too. So get the feeling like you're a cat and you're sort of grabbing the ground and you have your weight evenly between the ball of your feet right here and your heel. And I talk a lot about the arch right here in your ankle, and not so much out on the balls of your feet, but really like you're gripping that and then feeling that in your swing and not feeling yourself go to your toes. I'll use some foam noodles too, or some feedback back here where they have to turn and stay on that line. But ultimately, I've found it's usually, if the juniors, it might be more about educating them, but as the students get older, you're going to have some instabilities with you know, core strength or something there that's going to prevent that from really rotating well. I'm convinced that's the biggest thing right there, is just the way people's hips function, especially as they get older. So you got to do some physical screening, and then you can do some drills. You can train impact, slow motion swings.
Impact bag.
Yeah.
Another thing I look at a lot, I'm sure we all do, is the ratio of practice. How much full swing, how much short game, how much on the course, how much at home. I think that's an important thing to remember too. What is the ratio? If you ask a young person, they would just want to come out and hit balls just like an adult. They just want to go out and hit balls. They don't want to practice the short game. So I think it's important to give them a schedule. They want for you to tell them what to do. They really do. Tell them that they should only spend 20 minutes on their full swing, and then do 20 minutes on chipping, and then 20 minutes on putting if they have an hour. After school, that's usually about all they have. Another young man?
Yep. Going to bring up Casey Scott right here. Thank you, Casey. I think as they, as also too, as your juniors get more into it, it's important that to learn how to play this game, you have to be focusing on the other things. And that's why I like my system, because it prevents me from hanging out in that fundamentals box and not just worrying on swing mechanics and making sure we're touching on all the other things and letting some of those things kind of go for a little while. And it's not just shoot and look and shoot and look. Oftentimes when we come out here for a lesson, it might be 5 minutes of swing mechanics, and then we're going to do some other things all over the academy, whether it's pitching or chipping or whatever. So, Casey, good player, has his goals are to play Division I college golf. So he's in. You know, he's what I call all in, and he's starting to touch on all those things in the box right there. And I met him back in July, and we started working a little bit. And his ball flight had a lot of spin on it, and it was high and right, but he's still a good golfer. You know, he's a good player. A little inconsistent. And the goal was, after talking with him, I filmed his swing on the range. I watched his short game. I had him hit some pitches, some chips, and I even took him out on the golf course before I really said anything about his swing. And I'm doing more of that now. You know, whereas before I used to like, okay, shoot, this is where, you know, I want to see it all. And because I'm very aware, like I feel a tremendous responsibility working with juniors because, you know, he's still growing. He has goals. And I want to make sure he achieves them. So I want to make sure I got the full diagnosis of what we're doing, and then we're going to have some good dialogue on how we're going to get there. And it's flexible, we might change it, whatever. But so what we did was, take your setup, is Casey was a little over the top, steep, pretty deep divots, lot of spin. So if it wasn't very windy, he could play around par. Some days he would get. He would have some accuracy with his driver. Had a high lofted driver, like a 13-after driver. So we'll talk about some of the changes we made. But let's take your setup. So I'm really big into fixing the takeaway. I think you can fix a lot in the first couple of feet of somebody's takeaway. You can fix one thing and fix, you know, maybe 5. I'm very comfortable working on the takeaway. So his swing was going a little bit this way. And the first time we filmed, at this point in his takeaway, he was rotating a little bit. The club head was behind him, and his hands, like a little teeter-totter, was going out this way. You see this a lot right here. And as a result, at about this point where his left forearm was parallel with the ground, the shaft was well above the golf ball. And this club's out of balance now. And so for him, it doesn't work with everybody, but for him, the move was the left shoulder got going, the upper body dominated, and it came in steep, and the face was a little open. And he hit primarily to the right. He wouldn't pull too many to the left. So the very first thing we worked on after everything was alignment. And I had him set up a station behind where he was going to hit balls. And we did this drill where this was on his toe line. And I like this a lot. And I'm very comfortable letting my students do something like this without me watching, because I think this is something that's safe, that's going to promote good mechanics. Take your setup, and instead of going this way, knocking that out, working with his hands a little bit more over his right foot, and then hinging up and having the club point down. And so that was a repetitive, kind of a blocked training, where he's going to do it over and over and over again until it becomes unconscious. And I think that's, you know, for me as an instructor, you know, I don't know if Raymond Floyd would like that drill because he's pretty good taking it back to the inside. But for me, I had to make a decision. Is this why he was coming over the top? And ultimately, it's helped his angle of attack and how he's delivering the club to the golf ball, which is really, ultimately, that's what I'm looking at. Is how is this club coming into the ball? So he's been working on this. And sure enough, the club's coming back a little bit straighter. He's in a little better position now. We checked the other day. He still has the handle above the ball. So the hand, I'd like to see now the hands move in a little bit closer to the right foot. But divots are a little bit shallower, there's less spin, the ball flight's starting to come down a little bit, and it's getting compressed more, and he's hitting his iron farther. So those are the kind of things that are telling me that this is probably working, and he feels good about that. So you want to take a couple practice swings, and then just take a couple practice swings, and then take some real things. And so it's like you got to pick your battle too. There were a couple other things. He came inside and he'd get a little bit forward too, and start coming this way and get a lot of get his head moving a little bit forward too. So like, where did you start? I always like looking at the setup and the table. And I like this on the toe line. So right now this might be a little bit far out. And if it's really a big move at first, I might move it in a little bit and then we kind of shorten the window. But in terms of video, if I was back here, as long as there's a rectangle about the size of a shoebox and the club and the hands are kind of in there, I'm all right. I mean, it doesn't have to be absolute perfect. I mean, there's a lot of different, I think we've kind of established that today. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But for him, I'm looking to see that club work more up through his right forearm and his right elbow, and that handle being pointed down more between his feet and the ball and that ball. So that's a couple. And so this would be a case where he'd do some swings, get a shot, see the result of the ball flight, maybe we get it, come back, do some more. And this would be kind of a specific block